Morning. Well, after the demonstration yesterday of using a plastic card to scrape out detail and texture rocks, etc., I thought I'd do some simple trees, how I paint trees separate from a landscape, because when we practice trees we do like to put them with a barn or a house or a bit of countryside and paint them as part of the landscape, but I'll see if I can try and show some ideas of how I go about a tree. I'm not going to paint specific trees. My trees are not botanical masterpieces, I have to say. I had this brush delivered yesterday from Curtis Ward. It's the highest quality pure squirrel. It's a Pro Art Renaissance range. It's a triple O, and it was about £5 plus postage. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that will do for some foliage. We're going to use it for some small demos around this piece of paper. It's a Fabriano, but before I do, I'm going to wet it. This paper doesn't really work well dry, so it's better to just wet it and let the water soak in a bit. Lubricates and it helps the paper to expand when we can then stretch it between the clips and pull it tight again. So that'll do. It's only soaking wet. So I did that with the hake. I'm going to try and do this just with the mops. This is a number 4. I suppose to complete the range I need one smaller than that, a long-haired one. But it's a nice little brush. It's the Pro Art Renaissance range. It does come to a nice point. So you can see the paper is starting to expand. You can soak both sides of the paper, in which case it would expand uniformly. Put it in a bowl or a square bowl, or in the bath, and leave it for a few minutes, and then wait for the water just to drain off of it. The only problem with that is, unless you work on a very clean surface underneath, when you make a muck up of the one side, you can turn it over and do the other side. But if I put it on this, this is covered in paint, this small bit of plywood or laminate, wood laminate. So let's give that a little clip and we'll start to do some doodles. So I'm going to try this little brush. Now we'll paint distant trees. So distant trees, blue and a bit of red maybe. Nice. I'm using this food display tray. Well, let's just start and see what happens. Now, you won't see too much detail at this sort of distance. So you don't need to leave too many air holes. We can just put a bit of a trunk. Because as often as not, the foliage on a tree, all the leaves don't come right down to the ground. But you can have bit of land. No detail in that one, and fainter still we can do just blue. Lovely little brush. You can put 2 in there. Okay, so that would be just another collection of trees. When you come closer, you can start greening up a bit. But remember that you've got to be aware of where the light is. So I have it from one side, and then when this paper dries a bit, you can do the dry brush. and we'll put a bit of shadow on the other side. And then we'll put a trunk in there, have it dark maybe on one side. Remember, trunks aren't brown, they're usually grey, greeny grey. But your trees, your trunks have got to be strong enough to hold up the canopy. It's no good having a great big candy floss shaped tree with just a tiny stem, because it'll just fall over. And we just anchor it into the ground. When these dry, you can put a little bit of detail, a bit more detail in that one. But we're getting warmer. It's just in my cloth. Well, let's just go put a bit more in there. Okay, now that it's drying, we'll do just a little bit of a drier greeny colour. As you come down, leave air holes now. But don't keep things symmetrical. Now put some shadow in. I'll go back over these in a minute when it dries. What I like to do with that is just to get a bit of blue and just put in some background so they live a bit. And then as that dries, you can add some bit more texture. I'll leave that because it'll go cauliflower if I touch it now. It'll go also those horrible oases. So they're sort of deciduous trees. You can lift out with a card, if you remember from yesterday. And we'll do a pine. So I'll mix a bit of hooker's green with a bit of blue, bit of ultramarine, maybe a little bit of yellow, and then we can oh, that's a wonderful brush. Then we'll have a bit of grey. Just put that in there. Yeah, so that's, and you can make them wider than that, like a sort of a yew tree, which is much more spread out. Which gets very large and spreading. The churchyard tree, just making it dark to go on that side. Put a bit of yellow in here on the edge of that. Right, let's put a little bit of. I won't put any detail on it other than just a few little branches showing through. Just a bit of bluey grey, really. But you wouldn't see much detail in trees at that sort of distance. It's when you get to here that you start to see bits of branch froth showing through. Just carry on like that, and tiny point on this, but it's lovely. It's probably making a finer stroke than a rigger. Okay, so there we are, sort of building up. If you want trunk to go from light to dark, just put it dark on one side and just wet the other side. And this works better when the trees are slightly damp and a lesser angle, which is about 25 to 30 degrees. I prefer to work flatter, but trying to show everything. Now we'll go on, trying to show everything on the camera, on my camera anyway, my camcorder. I'm very limited. The flatter it is, the less you see. But the more you see is when it's vertical, but then the water runs down far too quickly. Right, okay, now we'll do some distant clumps of trees with some more landscape built into it, and we'll stay with the summery greens. So we'll use the blue. See the space I've got on this bit of red in there. Whoops. Oh, I'm keeping my palette, my Cotsman palette, in a stay wet palette on a lot of wet kitchen towel. It's keeping it lovely and moist, and I'll give it a spray as well. So I'm really working on almost tube consistency paint, which is lovely. Just a lovely brush. So let's do a bit of heathland, so a bit of distance. Just use the sides of the brush. Don't use the tip at this stage. Okay. And we can just build up sort of common land, heath. And then as we come forward, we can do some bluer, warmer colour. And we'll I'm using burnt sienna and ultramarine. And now we're showing more detail in the air holes for the birds. The trees should show air holes for the birds, bird holes for them to fly through. And now we can come into more warmer greens. Okay, it's a darker green. Okay, now I'm going to put a bit of a bush under that. So you can see what's happening. We're getting warmer as we're coming to the foreground. Nice and warm. Now we'll go back to it's cadmium yellow. I'm going to let that go for a minute. Just put a bit of a trunk on there. Put a bit of shadow in there. I'm going to dry a bit more. And I'll put some blue behind that again so we can bring it back into that distant heathland. And a little bit of detail in there, bit of warm. So we get another plane. This paper is pretty good, you know. We buy it because it's cheap, but it does its own thing very well. Just to put a bit of texture in here. Add a bit of blue in there. So we keep it still half cool. Right, now on this one I'm going to see if I can get some shadow. Just a bit of blue in this. Cool shadow. Actually, could make that a bit green. But a dark green. Bit of Payne's grey in there. Right, let's do some autumny scenes. That's not particularly good, but let's scrape out a little bit of that. And we'll do some nice a bit of red in there, bit of umber. Just put in some tree shapes. Right, let's go in with some blue and some burnt sienna. Put some darks in here. I love the combination of ultramarine and burnt sienna. I think it's a wonderful mix, made in heaven. And this is Cotman paint, so I'm managing to get some life out of it. And a bit of sienna. That's I'm going to get some more dark in there. Just drop some of that in there. Then I can do the scraping out, but using a fingernail. Because I often you won't be able to find your card. So use what's available. Cool, I like this. What a lovely little brush. Triple O Renaissance. It's not like the French most expensive range. I wouldn't have thought, but it is a very delicate. Look what it does. We'll get some darker umber in there. More warm. Right, let's go the other way now and put in some bit of Payne's grey and a bit of sort of things I'd normally do with a hake. And you can get the wind direction on this. Remember, some branches go down, but the wind's coming from the left to the right. And we can show that on the dry brush with the get a bit darker stuff in there on that side. It didn't quite come off. Let's do another one. I'll paint the foliage first. I'll do my normal. A bit of dark, a bit of blue. Put a bit of dark under there. And that one. A bit of dark. Payne's grey, bit of sienna. Be a bit careful with this point. So just doodling really. That is not very good. That didn't quite come off. So I'll do that one again. Bit of lovely yellow. Right, let's get a nice dark green. So cab yellow, cabin yellow, and Payne's grey. It's good darkish sort of green. Let's just paint that into there. Bit darker. It's more an experiment in using this little brush, isn't it? We've certainly had a lot of rain lately in London. Go months without hardly any rain, and then we get loads and loads and loads of it. My little river Wandle was almost over. Well, it's overflowed in one or two places locally. Bit of dry brush. Nice bit of blue on there. There's a bit more detail on there now. Whoops. Don't like that now. I'll do another one of those, I think. Right, burnt sienna, bit of burnt umber. bit of shadow. Well, there we are. That's just about showing the sort of, I mean, some will work out better than others, of course, but I hope you get the idea. You're painting, well, I can only paint an impression of a tree. I haven't the patience or the skill to paint every leaf in detail. I have to find an easier way for me to do it, a more impressionist way. But I think you need to remember to leave air holes in the warmer trees. Not so important on the distance because you probably wouldn't see them. You'll just see the shape. Here, well, just experiment, just practice these on a piece of paper. Don't wait till you get into a really good village scene and then ruin it because you haven't practiced your trees. Do this, practice for figures as well. I'm not very good, I don't do a lot of it, but you know, just make up some, well, figures sort of give scale to things, because you know the size of a figure. Well, I've gone a bit wrong there. Let's do another one. Let's do a darker one. I usually paint the body first, put a head on, make the head fairly small. Look, they just add something. Well, they can add everything to a picture, really. Probably not the greatest brush to use for this. You just do these things. Here's a piece of paper. The thing is, if I do this myself, I'm wasting time. I could be making a video, but you still need to practice. You know, they just, forget your shadows. So just have fun. There's a basic shape of a house that seems to be quite attractive. Is the Norfolk type of house with a chimney on the gate, on the flank wall, coming down. And then chimney stacks going down into the distance. You know, it's very simple things, just practice them. Practice them in a sketchbook. You don't need to use your watercolour paper to practice all of this. You can use some good quality cartridge paper. But I hope you enjoyed that. I've shown you really quite a bit there. But have a go. It's easier than you think. But it's having the confidence to be prepared to waste a bit of paper. So that's why you want cheaper paper if you're a beginner. And then don't attempt the impossible. These are all done mostly with the size of the brush, with a bit of detail, with this sort of the tip of this brush, just to flick in some branches, twigs, direction of the wind. Lift out with your fingernail, flat shapes for distance, going forward, getting warmer. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you get something out of it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.